Hi Tenfold, I'm Andile. Please assist me with the following question.
Let's go and see what the story is with the words that she wrote for us, and then try to see how can we actually make sense of what exactly is the mean and what is the standard deviation. So you'll understand what exactly will be the implications of either adding a value or multiplying by a value in those two measures. Right. So this question says to us here, a given data set has a mean mu. Right. This is a Greek letter mu, guys. So our mean is mu. And a standard deviation sigma. So that is actually another Greek letter S, which we call sigma. This is the small letter S, which is called sigma as well. So we are given the mean and we are also given the standard deviation. Right. The first question says, what are the new values of the mean and the standard deviation if the same constant k is added on each data value in the given set? And we have to explain what the story is here. So the question is basically this. So imagine if you had 5 numbers. It doesn't have to be 5. It could be 7 or any other pool of numbers, right? Well, whatever the numbers you had, you measure the standard deviation of those numbers. You also measure the mean of those numbers. Now, we want to know if we went back to those numbers and added a particular value on each one of them, any constant value. Maybe we decide to say, let's add 3 on all of them. How will that change or affect our old mean? Will the mean change or will it stay the same? And will the standard deviation change or stay the same? And why are we even saying that? Are we all listening to that? Very powerful stuff and absolutely interesting. Now, let's look at what we can do here to try and make sense of what exactly the mean is, if you think about it. So the mean is the sum of all the values that you guys have and that you are currently working with. We know that the old mean is simply given by that, and we know that the standard deviation is just simply going to be that particular value there. Right, let's see what we can actually say from this. So the standard deviation is just simply going to be that. Now, if you add a constant value on your old values, right, if you keep on adding k, the mean will not remain the same. It is also going to change by that same amount k. And we can do a demonstration, a mathematical demonstration of this by saying that if I have a number plus another number plus another number, right, divided by how many they are, and then I'm claiming that this is actually equal to my mean, when I add a constant value on all of them, my a will now be a plus the constant value k, my b will now be plus the constant value k, my c will also change and become c plus some constant value k divided by those number of terms that I had, which is still the same number of scores that we were dealing with. Right. Now, if you simplify further, you will notice that k is actually going to be there n times, depending on how many numbers we are adding in total. There will be n of those things. So I'll simply have n times those k's plus the a, plus the b, plus the c, and so on, divided by n. And if you simply divide here, it's n k over n plus the a, plus the b, plus the c, all over the n. Right, when you do this simply, you can see that the n will just simply cancel the n, and this is going to be k plus the old mean. So clearly, your mean will also increase by the same amount. The mean, right, the mean will increase also by, or it will change. If you're increasing, it will also increase. If you're decreasing, it will also decrease. So the mean will increase by an amount of the same as whatever you were using to increase your values, amount of that constant that you're currently working with, which is k. When you go to the standard deviation, guys, you need to understand the following. The standard deviation measures the difference between your numbers from the mean. It just measures how different are the numbers that you're dealing with from the mean on average. Now, if all my values are all shifting by the same amount, you should notice that the difference does not actually change. It stays the same because all the numbers are all actually changing and growing according to that particular. So the spread between the mean and the actual values will remain the same. And I can make a very simple example. If I have, for example, just a very simple example here. If I have 7 and then I'm subtracting 2 and I get a difference of 5, which is what deviation is actually all about, and I decide to increase all my numbers by 3. 7 will suddenly become 10, and 6 will suddenly become 5. If you subtract them, you still end up with the same difference as the one that you had there. So given the fact that the deviation measures the spread or the difference between your mean and your values, when you increase all the values by the same amount, the difference between them will not change. Right. Quickly to the last part of this question, let's go and see what the story is going to be here. So the final answer on the previous question is that the mean will change by the value k, but the standard deviation will stay the same. What are the new values of the mean and the standard deviation if each data value of the set is multiplied by the constant k? Right. So the mean, right, which was given by mu, and the standard deviation, which was given by the value sigma. When you multiply all your values by a particular factor k, what will happen to the mean? Now you will notice something very interesting. Whatever the numbers you had, when you multiply them by a particular constant value, they will all become double if you are multiplying by 2, or 3 times if you're multiplying them by 3. They actually grow by a particular factor of whatever the k value that you are using. So it's clear that even your new mean will also be a multiplication of the old mean by whatever the factor that you were multiplying by. It's a very simple basic theory question, guys. So you have to also multiply the old mean by k in order to get the new mean when you decide to multiply all your scores by a constant value. So the new mean, right, the new mean will just simply be k multiplied by the old mean, right? But the new standard deviation, let's see what will happen with the new standard deviation. The new standard deviation will also be a product of k times the old standard deviation, because you are basically increasing the spread between the mean and the numbers. Since when you multiply a number by a particular factor, it actually creates more space or more spread between those two numbers. So the answer here will be simple. When you multiply by a constant, the mean will also be multiplied by the same constant, and the standard deviation will also be multiplied by the same constant. But if you are adding only, the mean increases by the same amount. Even when you're subtracting, the mean will decrease by the same amount. However, the standard deviation will remain the same and nothing else will happen on its original value.